Hey guys, SGT here. Kerry Lutz, who is the founder and proprietor of the Financial Survival Network, has really become sort of an everyday regular contributor at SGT Report. We're a fan of his work, and we post a lot of it. Now, Kerry is a student of Austrian economics and a graduate of New York Law School. Kerry, we're glad to have you here.
Hey, Sean, thanks so much. I'm feeling like people are actually standing up and starting to take notice, and it's kind of amazing.
I think so many of us are kindred spirits. It was fun to be on that round table with Chris Duane and you and Brother John the other day, and I think that was a fruitful conversation. So thanks for having us. So I wanted to return the favor.
Hey, it was my pleasure. I thought it was just a great idea to sit the three of you down and learn more about you guys, because your work is really a personal story about who you are, how you got where you are, and expressing yourselves, personal expression. So I felt like you really needed to know more about who Sean is, who Chris is, and who John is, because they're a part of your life.
Let me follow up on a question you asked during that roundtable. Your second question, I think, was what was the most controversial posting or article you've ever written? What's the most controversial thing you've ever been involved with? And on my drive home, I kind of regretted my answer, because I think the better answer to your question than the one I gave, Kerry, is that everything we post is controversial to those who are still asleep, to the sheeple. So whether it's something about the Federal Reserve, or if it's something about false flag terrorism, or whatever it is, if you're uninitiated and your eyes are closed and you don't have the ears to hear, the eyes to see, it's all controversial. So I guess it depends on a person's point of view, who they are, and what their worldview is. So you've done a really good job at waking people up. Let me ask you, what's the most controversial thing you've been involved with, or maybe your most controversial guest, or your most controversial post?
Well, my most controversial post was Yaron Brook and Doug Casey. And really, I'm not an anarchist. I have certain sympathies towards it that, I think there's a lot of good ideas there, but I'm really a limited government person, because I just can't get through my head that we could all survive in city-states, in countries, and in the world without some type of leadership. And that's not government. Government is governing. Leadership is leading. So I had this debate with them. That one turned out to be the most controversial. I got dozens and dozens of comments on it, and people were locked into that debate. And I feel like made some progress there, because to me it's about shifting the debate, because the debate isn't Leviathan government. That is a failure. It has always failed. It always will fail. And there's really nothing that's ever going to make it a success.
Yeah, that's interesting. I spoke with Jeff Berwick from the Dollar Vigilante not long ago and interviewed him, and he's an anarchist, and I wasn't that familiar with what the definition of that term was, and I understand now that it really is people who believe that all government is essentially quote-unquote evil, or that we'd be better off without government. And I tend to agree with you. I think the challenge, though, as G. Edward Griffin explained to me once, is the idea of an honorable government that we can trust to do the right thing as it pertains to a fiat currency or anything else is an oxymoron. There is no such thing as an honorable government. So that's the trick. I mean, unless guys like George Washington were able to be brought back to lead us once again, with the exception of Ron Paul, it's hard to find any honorable people in government who can lead us out of this quagmire of tyranny that we're in.
That is a real problem, because the entire process of engaging in the political debate is one of corruption. Because just like Ron Paul, it's like he's not even in the election. He's up there with the other bozos on the platform, and yet the camera's away from him. And if they do pan in on him, they get his worst possible angle. And you're a video guy. You know how that works. And he's been marginalized. Literally, he's at the margin of the debate. And yet, he really does own the debate. So it's a really tough thing, because it's also that when an outsider really gets involved in the process, they rip him to shreds, because the machine is all about keeping the status quo and keeping the system in place and making everybody good puppies. So it's really a conundrum, but I believe that the current economic collapse that we're encountering gives an unparalleled opportunity to go back to basics, because the government isn't going to be able to afford to do the things that it's decided, or that we've decided we want it to do. So I guess honorable government comes with limited, focused, very purposeful government and leadership. We need leaders. Now, Reagan wasn't perfect. He didn't accomplish a lot of the things he set out to do. Spending went up, but the man was a leader. You were inspired by him being in the room. But unfortunately, our process is designed to weed those people out. I mean, H.L. Mencken wrote extensively about this, and so did Mark Twain and Will Rogers. You know, the system is inherently corrupting and corrupt, but every now and then, if people are awake and aware, they get somebody in there to do the right thing. So that's what we need to do.
The message of freedom and liberty resonates, and it's intrinsically understandable. You know it when you see it. You want to reach out and touch it. A guy like Ron Paul is a great example. I mean, he stands for the Constitution, and as Thomas Jefferson said, as it pertains to honorable government or leaders we trust, he said, "Let us have no more talk of trust in men. Let us bind men down with the Constitution." And that's the point. And so as we get these people in government who do not honor the Constitution, who do not look to the Constitution for guidance, as Ron Paul does, and who do not stand for the rule of law and the sovereignty of this great nation, the world's freest nation for generations, that's where we get into trouble. But that's why Ron Paul, this Ron Paul quote-unquote revolution, a peaceful revolution, I would like to add, none of us advocate violence at all. We just want to take our government back from the criminals who have stolen it from us and turned it over basically to globalist banks. Now, what's your take on this Ron Paul revolution?
Unfortunately, I think Ron Paul's a little too old to be leading a revolution, and he's in good shape. But if you go back on the YouTubes, and you've pieced together a bunch of them that I didn't even know existed, you've really done a phenomenal job on that. The guy's been saying the same message for over 30 years. He's been saying that the Federal Reserve is corrupt, you know, gold and silver, tangible-backed currency, and take the criminal out of government. I mean, it's an incredibly powerful message, and the only surprising thing is that it took this long to get out. But when he started, he didn't have the Internet. And the Internet is the Colt 45 of the 21st century. And what was the Colt 45? It enabled the little guy to stand up to the big guy and, say, "I'm not taking it from you." And that was before there was a government there to cater to the little guy's every want and need. And the Internet, the communication revolution, enables me, enables you, Chris, and others to get Ron Paul's message out there and to connect with unheralded numbers of people and let them know what's going on. Because, look, if you hear the truth enough, eventually your shell gets broken and you have a consciousness shift. But if you never hear the truth at all, you're never going to know. And that's kind of like what you have in North Korea, right?
Yeah, and Ron Paul, I think, is 76 years old right now. I do feel like this is our last chance, as it pertains to having him lead us as president. So I certainly agree with you there. But, the message of liberty, the genie's out of the bottle. I can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. The people love Ron Paul and his message. So even after Ron Paul passes from old age, and he's a very healthy man right now, his message of liberty has inspired so many others like me, like Chris Duane, like you, like everybody who supports Ron Paul. Alex Jones even loves Ron Paul. I mean, we all love Ron Paul. So that's a message that will go on forever at this point. I mean, I don't think any of us are going to lay down this battle to return our country to honor and a constitutional government when Ron Paul is no longer in the picture.
What you have to realize first and foremost is everything that's going on right now, even though it's never presented to the public this way, is a war of ideas. And the idea is, who is supreme? The battleground is, who's supreme? Is it the individual or is it the state, the government? And you and I and the rest on our side always believe the individual comes first. that this is a land of individuals, and the whole concept of the Declaration of Independence, that you would be free to pursue happiness. That was a novel concept. I don't have to serve somebody. I don't have to serve the king. I don't have to serve the lord of the manor. I don't have to serve the army, because we really never had an army until World War I. It was a very ragtag affair, other than during the Civil War and the War of 1812. There was nobody in that army. It was just a bunch of guys who didn't know what else they wanted to do. And that concept of pursuing happiness, and you can't do that as part of the collective.
You're right, and I just want to jump in and say that the Constitution, the beauty of our rights is that they are given to us by a creator, and therefore no man can take our rights away. And the reason that the globalists or the New World Order or whatever you want to call them would like to dismantle that document and return the rule of law to the hands of man is that then they can take away our rights, as they have done with the NDA S 1867 and other draconian legislation. Now, as a lawyer, as somebody with a degree in law, what is your litmus test for judging a truth teller? I always like to say, look to the people whose trees have borne fruit repeatedly, those who speak out against false flag terrorism, those who speak out against the Federal Reserve System. What is your litmus test for finding truth?
Well, that's a really incredible question, which nobody ever asks anybody, and I'm going to put that in my list of questions. And none of us are perfect. Okay, so you can't look for somebody who's going to agree with you on everything, because that's just unrealistic, and it's not a good thing, because what if you're both wrong? The litmus test, the ultimate test, is, does that person favor the rights of the individual? Okay, and for a politician, it's real easy to show that they don't, because you just have to look at their records. And are they, in effect, putting self-interest, lust for power, and desire for gain, are they willing to put that ahead of what they believe is right? Okay? And a guy like Ron Paul, obviously, look at him. Nobody could silence him. His message has been consistent as far as you go back. And then you look at a guy like Romney, and he has no core. And you look at all of these people, they have no cores. And I have to be able to look at a potential leader and say, has this person done harm? Will they do harm? And will they be true to their core beliefs, even if it means losing an argument, losing a law, losing a battle, losing an election? Because if you're not going to be true to your core to get into the office, you're not going to be true to your core to stay in the office.
Let me ask you this, though, Kerry, as it pertains to being an attorney, too. What do we do in a country where there is no more rule of law, where those who are perpetrating crimes against the people through fascist corporations or government, corporations and government working together is the definition of fascism? How do we take our country back when there is no more rule of law, when John Corzine can steal hundreds of millions of dollars from segregated accounts at MF Global, and the crime goes unpunished? How do we take this thing back peacefully when there apparently is no more rule of law?
Well, to borrow a phrase from one of your favorite people, I'm sure, Rahm Emanuel, never let a crisis go to waste. Now, I'm saying that in a positive sense, is we're in a crisis, okay? And if you've seen my business card, the back of it, there's two symbols in Chinese that make up the symbol for crisis. One is danger, and the other is opportunity. So the crisis that we're in is an opportunity to really educate people, to really get the message out there that big government, collectivism, corporativism, and all of that fascism fails. And it always fails, and it always will fail, and it's failing now. The key is free markets, getting the government out of the economy, because anytime the government enters the economy in any way, they pick winners and losers, and that is the essentials of fascism. Look at the Obama Green policy. It's picking winners that are complete losers. He's taken it to a whole new level that you can pick a loser company like a Solyndra or the rest of them, and you make them a winner because they got government money, and then they lose anyway. And there's such a powerful lesson in that. And I think that people in their hearts now know there is something fatally wrong with our system, and they're looking for answers, the people who are waking up, and it's becoming this mass awakening, this mass lifting of the veil. The veil is being lifted now, and people, it's like the Matrix, they see they have a choice. So the system is going to collapse, and people are going to have to make a choice at that point. And if we've done our job, we've gotten our message out there, they're going to be making the right decision.
Well said, Kerry. What is on the plate for the Financial Survival Network and Kerry Lutz? What can we look forward to?
Right now, we're a couple weeks away from our 1 millionth download, and I'm looking to expand my pool of guests. I'm looking to do more roundtables with people who really care about freedom and get other people involved in this who never thought they had a talent for it or never thought that they had an opportunity to do it, and get them out there talking. Because the more the message gets out there, the more the message that the individual is sovereign. And if that makes me a terrorist in the eyes of the FBI, so be it. But I believe the individual is sovereign and the state is subservient to the individual. And when those things reverse, man, we're all in trouble. And we're in trouble now because they have. And so the Financial Survival Network, it's about protecting your family, protecting your wealth, building your financial fortress, having a financial survival plan in place, a family survival plan, and a physical survival plan if things really go to hell in a handbasket.
Well, very good, Kerry. We appreciate your time. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. We appreciate your posts and everything that we're able to put up at SGT Report to get the word out. You talk to very interesting people, and you cover very compelling topics. So until we speak again or until the next roundtable, take care. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Hey, thank you so much for having me on, and everybody keep the faith and fight for freedom.
Yeah, truth on, guys. Liberty is paramount. All right, Kerry, we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
Well, thanks for tuning in, and check out sgtreport.com for all the latest. Good night.